Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. How you all doing? Hope everybody is doing well. We are here live with the Red Devil Daily, although it is going to be an iteration and we're going to call it the Red Devil Weekly because it has been a week since we've been live. We've missed a lot of news. We're going to do a weekly recap today on all Manchester United news, all the important news that has come out over the past week. We are in an international break, of course, so it's been a little bit slow here and there, but we have gotten some updates, some very big updates. Ruben Amorim has done his first interview as Manchester United head coach, so we're going to get into that as well. We have player speculation, player rumors, transfer rumors as well to get into, amongst other topics surrounding Ruben Amorim, the start of his era at Manchester United, and you know, the outlook between players of who's going to do well and how things are going to go. So we're going to get all into that, so stick around with us. There's a lot to cover. And if you can, please smash the like button for me real quick because it helps the channel grow. So if you could do that, we greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the content and you're new, obviously then subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell so that you never miss a live and you get the updates when we go live. But we can get straight into the show. Now, for the people that obviously may have missed it, and I'm sure a lot of people are in tune with the things that have gone on at Manchester United. But one of the things to come out in the beginning of the week was that Ruben Amorim wants players with intensity. That's what he mentions in the talks that he had with Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, Dan Ashworth, etc. when he arrived to Manchester United on Monday in the beginning of the week. He said United will focus on that in the market. And that was from Fabrizio Romano. So that's how we started off with that. And yeah. And the other big news, obviously, there was a lot of speculation. Was Ruud going to stay? Was he going to leave? Many people had a lot of opinions on it. Mine was that I thought it was the correct thing for Ruud van Nistelrooy to move on. He came in in the purpose of to help Erik ten Hag. He was brought in for Erik ten Hag, and the correct thing for that to happen was for Ruud van Nistelrooy to leave. My reason for that is that one that was actually stated, and we're going to get into, but the main thing of that is it had to be a fresh start. Ruben Amorim is bringing his coaching staff with him, about 5 new people. There wasn't really room for another assistant coach. Amorim has brung 2 with him, and we also had a couple other coaches that were brought in specifically for Erik ten Hag. And just the proper process is always, if you're moving on from one manager or one head coach to a next one, you kind of got to start on a new clean slate. You can't just you can't just say you're starting new and keep the old staff. It causes problems. It could cause grounds for issues to arise, especially from the player aspect. And we're going to get into that more because there was more updates. But one of the things that came up was about Darren Fletcher, which is somewhere here. So Darren Fletcher, it was reported that Darren Fletcher to remain at Manchester United in a coaching capacity continues to be a link between the first team and the academy. And that was something that we spoke about, that Darren Fletcher was most likely going to stay. Darren Fletcher didn't have really anything to do with Erik ten Hag. Darren Fletcher's been at the club. And I don't have a problem with Darren Fletcher in how I had a problem with Ruud van Nistelrooy, because Ruud van Nistelrooy was more in a position of power. He was assistant manager. He also took over and managed, of course, the interim games. So the dynamic between Ruud van Nistelrooy and the players is certainly different than Darren Fletcher and the players. It always has been. It's been different for quite some time. So I think that Darren Fletcher, I think he's a good link between the young players at Manchester United and the first team. I think he has 2 young sons that are in the academy. I think he understands the younger generation a little bit more than maybe some do. And I'm okay with him staying there and being a coach. Really, I think it's totally fine for him to be that. So he has stayed on from that update that came earlier in the week. And yeah. The next thing that came up is that apparently Anthony wants to hold talks with Manchester United to understand his role going forward, as he is unhappy with the situation at the club. And that's all fine, but I think Anthony needs to understand that, you know, he really hasn't provided anything in terms of performance on the pitch, and he can be unhappy, and I'm sure he is unhappy because, you know, what player is would be happy to not play. Um, but, you know, at the same time, we can also say that, you know, the fans are unhappy with you, Anthony. And I'm sure there's people at the club that are unhappy with you. You know, we brought you in. We've given you a lot of chances. It's your third season now. And you're nowhere near the level of what we need for the Premier League, but more specifically for Manchester United. So, you know, he could be unhappy as he wants, but, you know, the only way for him to really change that and turn it around is that he has to, when given the opportunities to go onto the pitch, he's got to take his opportunities. I would liken it something similar to Amad Diallo. Do you think Amad Diallo is happy to be starting matches and then be completely frozen out for basically no reason in terms of you know, performances, and and not playing? And then, you know, of course he was unhappy, but when he got the opportunity to come back on the pitch, he grabbed hold of that opportunity and took it, and he's forced himself back in, and he's garnered a lot of support. You know, a lot of these players, in my opinion, you know, some of them, they got to stop being babies. They got to stop being babies. You know, this is a competitive, high quality sport. You know, you can be unhappy, but you gotta man up and take your opportunities when they come. And just do the work on the pitch. It's the only way to save yourself. And it's the same thing for the manager as well. I'm gonna get into that as well. But Ruben Amorim's plan to start immediately with the back three in the defense and bring in players ready to provide intensity starting from 2025. That was from Fabrizio Romano as well. Update earlier in the week. And then followed that up, Fabrizio Romano, by saying intensity is a crucial word of what Ruben Amorim wants to build at Manchester United. For example, I don't think Eriksen will continue at the club under Amorim beyond this season. And I think that's a fair statement. And I think it is also correct in a way, because I think intensity is a word that you wouldn't describe this Manchester United, this current team at Manchester United. It's not a word. It's not an attribute that you would describe that we see on the pitch over the past, I would say, at least year and a half. I think in the first year of Erik ten Hag, they showed quite a good amount of intensity. So I know there's a lot of players there that can give that intensity, but this team has transformed into something that does not show this high level of intensity. And obviously, the Premier League is probably the most high level intensity league in the world. And that's probably why it is a crucial word for Ruben Amorim, because he understands, you know, not just football in general, but football in the Premier League. You need to have intensity, and if the higher the level of intensity you have, the better the team you are, the more results you will get, the better of a performance you will get. So for sure, certainly we need high intensity. And, you know, I think players like Christian Eriksen, even Casemiro, maybe even a Harry Maguire, you know, some of these players, I think they will probably get moved on in the summer, because we need to refresh this squad and we need to get the highest intensity players that we could possibly get. So, yeah, I think certainly it is something that we need to look to do. And I think Ruben Amorim is correct to identify that as one of the biggest problems at Manchester United right now, as of right now. Moving on to that, Ineos sacked 7 coaches and Erik ten Hag's staff yesterday. So a lot of movement. And this wasn't yesterday. This was earlier in the week. But this is when the the tweet was put out. So, you know, I think this encourages me. I like this very much. Ineos obviously doing the correct thing as a football club. In the past, this would have never happened under Ned Woodward, under Richard Arnold, under the Glazes. This itself would have never happened, for sure. We would have never sacked the manager plus 7 coaches plus Erik ten Hag's staff. You know, 75% of them would still be at Manchester United working under the new manager slash head coach. So, you know, and that is a reason why we have led many failed projects, and many we've had many failed circumstances. You know, you cannot operate a football club in that manner, and clearly Ineos have taken the correct steps to ensure that Ruben Amorim and his coaching staff have, you know, a new direction with a fresh, clean start and moving in the correct way. I mean, this is really something that you need to do. It's just a standard basic, regardless who it is. You know, they could have even had Sir Alex Ferguson in an assistant role. Um, you know, you would still have to remove him. Once you change directions, you cannot just hold on to bits and pieces of the previous regime that was in charge. It just it breeds a ground for problems and dysfunction. And the chemistry isn't right, and you just can't have that if you're trying to be successful. So, of course, Ineos doing the correct thing there. United, there was talk when, you know, Amorim was coming in, you know, the negotiations between Sporting that Amorim, um, obviously we had to pay compensation for them, but as well as the fact that, you know, that we would have to pay compensation for his other staff that are coming with him. But it's come out from Chris Wheeler that United have not paid compensation for Ruben Amorim's coaching staff, which is a positive because we bring in Amorim plus 5 people with him, 2 assistant coaches, a head physio, and some maybe I think a goalkeeper, goalkeeper coach, and maybe like I don't think it was a set piece, it was something else. But we bring in 5 more people without having to pay for them. So that's actually very good for us because we spent quite a lot of money on sacking Erik ten Hag and bringing in Ruben Amorim. So that is very, very good actually. That has gone our way. Now, moving on, get a little bit of player speculation in. And of course, we're being linked to many Sporting players here and there. So one of the Sporting players is Sporting attacking midfielder Pedro Goncalves. He's apparently one to watch in the summer, and the follow up with that is that Ruben Amorim, you know, his words on Goncalves, saying he can play for any team in the world and with any player because he is a great player. I could take him anywhere. So, you know, it just Ruben Amorim. This was obviously made in the past. This wasn't made recently. But he obviously feels very highly about this player. He's obviously worked with this player firsthand. He knows how good of a player this guy is. So I think certainly, based off of just Ruben Amorim's idea and description of him, I think certainly he will be one to watch in the summer. I don't think it'll happen in January. I don't think there's going to be many deals to happen in January. But yeah, you know, and he is a very good player. I think he's at a right age as well. Good enough for Manchester United and the project, and I think we can do, you know, a transfer there as well. And he can also play multiple positions. Like he can play in the attacking mid, centrally, but he can also play attacking mid out wide as well. He has played there many times, so definitely one to watch for the summer. Another player from Sporting, according to Chris Wheeler, is a young player named by Giovanni Quenda. He's come from Sporting's academy. He's another one of these academy Sporting players. He's very good, very young, very talented player. And yeah, we are watching him. There's going to be more updates on him coming because this is in chronological order, so we can see how the things unfolded throughout the week. Richard Hawkins has joined us. Richard, how you doing? Says evening all. How you doing, Richard? Yeah, it's been a week since we spoke. You know, I don't know if you caught the Ruben Amorim interview that he's done. They just put it out. I think it was yesterday. I was listening to a little bit. We're gonna go over the quotes and stuff, but you know, if you have any thoughts, opinions on anything that came out, obviously, just throw them in the chat, Richard, and we'll talk about them. But so this was from Ruud van Nistelrooy. Obviously, he left United before. After he left United, this piece came from the Sun. Now, obviously, we always take what the Sun says with a salt, you know, the smallest salt of grain you possibly can, because they say a lot of BS, and you know it's not good stuff. But in this case, I think the way it reads, I think is a pretty fair thing, and I don't find it too far off out there in, you know, made up storyland. And it reads as follows, saying, Ruud van Nistelrooy urged Manchester United's players to get behind new manager Ruben Amorim before signing off as interim. He indicated to the first team that he expected to leave Old Trafford when Amorim arrives, which he obviously has left. But I think it's important for Ruud to also send that message across, because here's the thing, and this is why Ruud needed to leave. Obviously, there was things that were coming out that the players really like Ruud, they respect Ruud. There was, even when Ten Hag was here, there was things coming out saying how well they liked Ruud Van Nistelrooy, and there was kind of this indication, this kind of hint that they liked interacting and being coached by Ruud more than they liked the interaction and being coached by Erik Ten Hag, which is a problem because Ruud Van Nistelrooy at the time was not the manager. He was an assistant manager. And you can't really have that when you try to establish a proper hierarchy and stuff inside of the club. Within the team dynamic, obviously the manager, now a head coach, the head coach is the head coach. He is the boss. He is the main man. He does not need to be undermined intentionally or unintentionally by anybody within his staff or that is supposed to be working for him and helping him. Now, obviously, that comes from the players' fault because, they're the ones that are doing it. But this is why, in my opinion, Ruud Van Nistelrooy really had to go. And I feel sorry for Ruud. I really do, because he left the coaching job. He had one season in. I think he did good in his first season, and I think he could have carried on there. He also turned down some offers to be a manager in other places to come to Manchester United. And obviously, when he took the job, he didn't expect for it to only last about 3 months and now be out of a job. So on that part, I do feel bad for Ruud. I do. It's a shit situation and it sucks. But again, this is football. Things happens, and you cannot be a charity. You cannot be a place for sympathy. We're trying to be successful. We're trying to be competitive there, and when you're trying to do these things, you have to be a little bit ruthless. You have to be a little bit cutthroat, because that's how the sport is. So for sure. And now we got more people joining as well. Grace is in here, a wonderful moderator. Ray is in here as well. Good to see you all. It's been a week since we talked, so I hope everybody's doing well. I missed you guys. But yeah. And RSV is in here as well, and Sandy is in here as well. So good to see you all. Grace is saying, if he don't play a 3-4-3 against Ipswich, or he changes his philosophy after a couple of losses, then Amorim has to go. Well, I will say, Grace, I do agree in that aspect. The only thing that I would change differently is I don't know if it means like he has to go, but I think it will mean that in the long term, he will fail. Because again, this is one of the arguments I've been saying. We need him to come here and play his style and his system. I will take the short pain gain, the short pain hurt for the longer term success. When Klopp came to Liverpool, Klopp did not change his formation, his idea, his philosophy. He came there, he gave it to Liverpool. They tried to play it. They struggled the first season the most, and the second season as well. But he didn't panic. He didn't change it. They did the proper thing in that you play this way. The players that can play, they build in that system. The players that cannot, we remove them little by little. And we bring in players that can play in the system, that have the ability, the fitness, the work rate, the attitude, the mentality. And that's what we need to do, because too many managers have come to Manchester United with their philosophy, with their idea, post Sir Alex Ferguson, try to implement something. They play a few matches. They realize these majority of the squad can't do it. They panic and shit themselves because they're worried about their job. There's obviously a lot of pressure on them to succeed and win matches. And they change it to something, and it never materializes into anything good because they're trying to make it up really as they go, and we can't be doing that. But I will say on that part, Grace, that I do think that he's going to play that. There's been indications, and I think he said something about it as well. So we'll obviously circle back to that as well. Let me get to the other guys. RSV saying, when Omar Barada was appointed, he clearly stated that if the players underperform, they will leave within the next 2 years. He did say that, and that's why right now I do have hope that we are going to actually go in the right direction, RSV, because there's a lot of players, somebody like an Anthony, 3 seasons, he's completely underperformed. And this is why I expect him to leave. I think they view that as a waste of money. I think they view it as a failed transfer. And I don't think they're going to continue with it. So this is why I still have this belief and I still have this hope that, this will get done. Like, we will remove the players that do not fit in this new way that United are trying to move under Amorim, and we will get players in because I think this is the way they operate. And I'm waiting for the transfer window, the summer one, to see if he keeps that promise. But right now, I think it's a little bit too early to say, oh, they're not going to do it, or he hasn't done it, or it was a lie and stuff like that. So let's see what happens. But I have high expectations, and I feel fairly positive in this moment under Ineos for when we get to the summer. Ray saying can't wait till we start again. Yet neither can I. I mean, I don't really like the international football. I don't even really watch it much. I mean, of course, when it's the summer and there's like the Euro or the World Cup, and all of football, all the leagues are gone, I watch it and I'll take it in. But I'm never a fan of the international breaks in the middle of the season. I'm in full league mode. I want to watch the league matches. I want to watch club football. And when they come about with their international breaks, I can't be asked. I can't be asked. I'm not interested. I don't want to watch them. I don't care. I could care less. Ray saying I'm not comments on Amorim, going to wait to see what happens on the pitch. Well, yeah, for sure. Obviously that's the determining factor. But you could still have a thought or an opinion about it, you know what I mean? It's just a normal thing, but obviously the proof will be in the pudding when we get on the pitch underneath, and we will see the actions, because actions speak louder than words, right? And we will see how it goes. But RSV saying hopefully Ruben has the balls and the authority to drop Rashford in particular. That guy is the biggest mercenary in the dressing room. Apparently, he is in New York now instead of training. Well, RSV, I gotta... Listen, you know what? Since you bring this up, I think we need to address it, because I was going to leave it a little bit towards the end, but since you brought it up, listen, it's okay if you don't like Marcus Rashford, and I'm not going directly at you, RSV. I'm saying this more in a general term, because this absolutely blew up all over social media. And everywhere, fans are having a shit fit and losing their mind. And and the news, the media aren't helping with the articles and stuff that they're writing either. Listen, on the Marcus Rashford thing, he's allowed to go to New York and watch a basketball game. He's allowed to wear his jewelry. He's allowed to wear his big puffy white Louis Vuitton jacket with the colors on it. He's allowed to do that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't understand why people get so outraged over these things. Right now, Marcus Rashford is not on international football. Ruben Amorim cannot start his training until Monday because he just got his visa permit prepared. So while Amorim has been there, he hasn't been doing anything with any of the players that are over there. Plus, any of these players, like anybody else, and this is why I think Rashford's being targeted a little bit unfairly, because the media wants to write about Marcus Rashford, but they don't want to write about any of the other players. Casemiro is also in the United States and went to go watch a basketball game on the same day Marcus Rashford went to go watch a basketball game. Nobody wrote an article about Casemiro and his wife going to watch the Philadelphia 76ers, but they write an article and a headline on Marcus Rashford. These things are sanctioned by the club. They have a week off. There's 2 weeks in a break. They are allowed to go wherever they want. And he is also still training, individually, but they're all training individually. There's no team training right now. So he's allowed to do that. I think it's been completely blown out of proportion by the media and some people that have a huge agenda against Marcus Rashford. Now, you can criticize Marcus Rashford for his performances on the pitch. Absolutely 100%. I have no problem with that. My problem is when people start attacking them in their personal life for things like wearing a Louis Vuitton jacket and wearing jewelry. It has nothing to do with anything. If Marcus Rashford went out in public and punched somebody in the street, I get it. You don't do things like that. But because he went to a basketball game wearing jewelry and a Louis Vuitton jacket, um, apparently it's a problem. And there is a symptom for that. Apparently people, some people, they get so delved into players, that they sort of feel like they have some control over the player's life, celebrities, etc. And people sort of make these expectations. Like, for example, there's somebody out there that has a certain expectation of Marcus Rashford because maybe at one point they had a certain affection for Marcus Rashford, and maybe they feel disappointed and let down by him now. And in their head, they've decided that Marcus Rashford shouldn't be wearing a Louis Vuitton jacket or wearing jewelry. He shouldn't be going to a basketball game. But for me, I just find that wrong, because you don't own him. You know what I mean? You don't own him. He's a human being. He's an individual. He's allowed to go and do these things, especially if the club's okay with it. So, but he's not doing anything necessarily wrong. All the players are doing this. All the players are doing this. They're all off. They're all off. The ones that aren't on international are all off. And obviously he's gonna return because today's Sunday and they're gonna start training tomorrow, so he will be there. But they had a week off. There's no problem for it. I think it was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous the way it was blown out of proportion in that aspect. So Lyle's in here as well. Lyle, good to see you, buddy. Gray saying, I'm not toxic, but God help Amorim. If he don't play at 3-4-3, Amorim don't want to see the angry side of me. I'm like a little angry midget. Well, yeah, nobody wants to piss off Grace. Don't piss off Grace. Amorim, you've been warned. Play the 3-4-3 or Grace is coming after you. Ray saying, I'm afraid from players. Some of them, they don't like change. Well, yeah. And you know what? The only thing that can help us out in that, Ray, there's nothing we could do about it. The only thing that can help us is Ineos. And kind of like what was said earlier, Omar Barada and co, they gotta get those players out. Those players that they don't like the change, they don't accept change, they don't perform. When we get to the summer, you gotta move them on, and you gotta protect the manager. So something similar to like what Arteta did at Arsenal. They kind of rounded up all these problem players and booted them out. And they got the culture of the squad correct, and it's time for us to do it. And I think now is the time for us to do it, because I think Ineos has the best possible chance to do it. I don't think it ever would have happened, and it never did happen under anybody that the Glazers had installed. But under Ineos, it's our best possible chance to happen. If it doesn't happen, we'll never make a comeback until it does. So I'm looking for it to happen. I have confidence that Ineos will do it. Unless until they don't, but I think they will. Grace saying we all love Marcus Rashford. Richard saying he is also allowed to buy me vodkas and pints. He absolutely is. There's nothing wrong with that. If he's walking around somewhere and he sees Richard and he wants to buy Richard some vodkas and some pints, what's wrong with that? Why isn't he allowed to do that? He makes a lot of money. He donates money. He can donate a couple of vodkas and pints to Richard. Of course. So, but OSV, back to that point, and to a big point, you are right though. Ruben does have to have the balls to drop a player like a Marcus Rashford or Bruno Fernandes if they're not performing on the pitch. I don't care what they do. Go watch a basketball game. If you're not breaking rules, if it's not like you have a game tomorrow night or something like that, I don't give a shit. None of that really matters. It's just complete nonsense. But anything that has to do with football and on the pitch, he does have to have the balls to do it, and we haven't seen anybody really do it yet. So now the thing is, I was talking to my sporting friend, and I was asking him questions like this, and he did say, which was it's actually kind of a negative. He did say that, that one of the things that he does do is that he doesn't drop players like that. In terms of like if they're struggling a little bit, he does sometimes kind of force it through, like we've seen. So I'm a little bit worried about that, because I think if you do that with these players, and we've seen what happens when you do it with these players, they let you down and they get you sacked. Um, but I think he has his own reasons for it. I think every manager has his own reasons for it. I think he has his reasons for it because I think he tries to push them through the barrier. But at the same time, he also told me, if a player like Marcus Rashford, for example, if he doesn't track back, if he doesn't run, if he doesn't do certain things on the pitch, he will not play. So he specifically told me that, like, he will not play these guys. Um, but I think he was saying more in the aspect of, like, if the player is doing things on the pitch that he needs to, the basic groundwork that he demands from the players, work hard, intensity, being in position, stuff like that. If they're struggling, maybe creating chances a little bit or putting the ball into the back of the net, stuff like that, I think he gives them a little bit more leeway, a little bit more of a leash. That's my understanding of the way he was saying with it. Like, if they're struggling for a little bit of form in that aspect, they will do it. But if you're not doing the basics, like we've seen Rashford do, walking, not pressing, not trying to defend, not tracking back, he told me flat out, he was like, Rashford will not start. He will not play. He won't do it, or Amorim won't do it. He's done it at Sporting. He's dropped players completely. They don't even get minutes at times. So let's see how he handles the situation. Because it's going to be a tricky one for sure. It's not going to be straightforward as good as we want it to be. But let's get through more of the updates because we have a lot. So one of the rumors here is that Manchester United have an interest in Ousmane Dembele dating back before Ruben Amorim became the manager. Amorim is also a massive fan of Diomande, and has huge trust in young players. So obviously we're being linked to tons and tons of Sporting players now. I do think we will do some deals for some Sporting players. And again, I'm not against it because I think Sporting have a very good academy. They make very good players. And the history between Manchester United and Sporting has always been a good one. Plus, I think something that we never really talked about is, that I think technically players that are Portuguese or come from the Portuguese league and come to the Premier League, they tend to do majorly very, very well. When they come from there to the Premier League, they tend to integrate very well, and not just with Manchester United, but with teams across the Premier League. There was Paulinho at Fulham. There was, even in the past, Ricardo Carvalho and stuff like that, and all types of players. João Cancelo, Ruben Diaz, Bernardo Silva, etc., etc. So I think there is a history of that as well. So I'm not against it. I think it's good. I think actually their league probably, while the quality difference might be there, right? I think their league is actually a little bit the football, the style is a little bit similar to the Premier League. Like, I think the Portuguese league football is actually a little bit more accustomed to the Premier League than, like, let's say, getting somebody from the Serie A and putting them in the Premier League. And people might say that, obviously the Serie A has a higher quality than the Portuguese league, but I think this football is a little bit more similar, the speed and stuff like that. So I think that's why they actually generally come to the Premier League and they adjust quite well. Grace is on her wind up. Manchester Sporting FC has got a good ring to it. It does. I told my friend that if he gives us a couple of his players, and we end up winning the league with Ruben Amorim, we'll build the statue outside of the stadium to show our respects to Sporting for greatly helping us. And I think we should do it if we do. Obviously, I'm not in charge, so I can't do it, but I think we should. I think we should pay some type of homage to them, if that ever happens. Oh, lost my place. Okay, so the update here. Sports scientist Paulo Barrera will focus on helping Amorim figure out players who are fit physically to meet his demands and style of play. So this is obviously why he's brung him. I think it's actually interesting that he's brung his own sports scientist. I think it's actually very good because I don't know all of our sports scientists at Manchester United, but I don't trust them because of the levels of fitness that we've seen at the club, and not hitting the highs that we want it to be, and also the number of injuries we've had. So I don't trust them. I'm sure we have a couple good ones, but I'm sure there are probably some bad ones that probably need to be sacked or replaced. Um, and since he was there at Sporting and they play high intensity and they he knows exactly what he needs, um, physically wise, to meet the demands of the style of play of Ruben Amorim. So I think it's perfect that he's come with us, and a really good move for us. Tyrell Malacia, of course, is back. It was good to see him back. He played for the under 21s a couple days ago. So there's a positive in that. He should be back in the first team very, very soon. Could be there for the first game under Ruben Amorim, but of course, taking it step by step. But it was very good to see him. It was a positive feeling. I'm very happy for him. I don't know if anybody of you taken the time to read the article that I think his name is Tyrell Marshall or something like that, put out, that he did an interview with Malacia, and just going overall going over what has happened to Malacia and the whole thing that he had to go through. And it was a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that we weren't privy to the information. He actually said why he didn't come out and speak, and he didn't break any silence about it. And there was a couple things that, again, you listen to it and it kind of hits home, like, yeah, okay. But a lot of people were making jokes, a lot of people were saying this and that about him. But when you hear the words come out of his mouth, you kind of remember, like, these are human beings, and they do suffer with stuff that we don't know is going on in their personal lives. I mean, while he's trying to recover from injury and he had his setback with the surgery, which is already disappointing and depressing, and you can't get on the pitch, and stuff like that, and you have to do physical therapy, and you got to try and recover, and you got to try and make yourself better, and there's tough days where you feel like giving up, but you got to go. His grandmother passed away, who he considers almost like a second mother to him, so he had to go through that as well. It was a hard period for him, but he pushed through it. He's taken his time, and he's come back. So it's good, and I hope he stays fit, and I wish him, all the best for that, because, again, we demand so much, but sometimes we do have to remember, like, hey, these are human beings. Now, something that he said in the interview, which was interesting, and I think we've talked about this many times on this channel, is how he mentions that he is not a social media guy. He doesn't use social media a lot, or very at all. So he doesn't see things online, but he was being told things that was being said on social media, like he ran off with Kate Middleton or something, or whatever, when she was, her whereabouts were kind of, unknown at that time, and stuff like that. And there was all these weird conspiracies and weird stories and jokes going on. He didn't see that. He wasn't on social media. He wasn't on X or Instagram looking at this stuff. He stays very far off of it. But and we've mentioned this before, what happens is, and this is why it's sort of unavoidable, even if you don't go on social media yourself, somebody like Tyrell Malacia, he doesn't go on social media himself. But what happens is, his family, his friends, or people that he knows, they see this stuff on social media, they screenshot it, and they send it to him in a text, and they start asking him questions about, what's going on here? Why are they saying this about you? Have you seen this? Blah, 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 blah. And he says, no, I don't go on social media. I don't use these things. I don't see it. And he's like, the only reason why I know people were saying these things was because I had people in my family sending me these messages. So again, it is, a lot of people say, oh, they shouldn't go on social media. They should stay off their phones. Don't look at what's being said on social media. And I think many of them probably already try to do that. But in today's day and age, it is basically almost impossible to avoid these types of things, because somebody somewhere will send it to you. they will ask you a question about it. They will tell you about it, and you will hear things that you didn't even know was going on because you don't know yourself. So, um, RSV saying, what I will say about Rashford is that he learned from Pogba, Lingard on how to down tools. They were basically the instigators and passed the torch on to Rashford after they left. Well, listen, I don't know what Marcus Rashford's problem is, um, because he's clearly suffering form wise. But when I watch him on the pitch, he doesn't look like he's happy. He doesn't look like he enjoys playing football at the moment. He doesn't look like he enjoys. He doesn't. You know, I said this to a friend the other day. I was like, he doesn't look like he's enjoys being at the club. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's just how he looks, and I'm reading too much into that. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe there is an actual problem there. And I would say that he has to do the work on the pitch. Whatever it is, whatever it is. If he wants to stay at Manchester United, and he truly, deep down in his heart, wants to stay at Manchester United, and he wants to win people back over, then you got to put in the work on the pitch. If you don't do that, or if he doesn't want to stay, then he needs to leave. And he needs to make that decision, because to me, I kind of get this vibe from Rashford, from the way that I see him out on the pitch playing for us, is that like he sort of fell out of love. I think he's tired of a lot of the over criticisms of him. Not related to per se, let's say, his performances. I think he does suffer a lot of abuse, and like actual abuse, not like criticizing his performance, but I think he does suffer a lot of abuse. Um, and I think he's just a little bit disingenuated with all that stuff. And I would tell him that, if your heart's not really in it anymore, Marcus, then you gotta go. You need to move yourself on, because it's like staying in a relationship with somebody that you don't really like anymore, but you're just staying in it. I mean, what's the point? And it obviously it's not going to be a positive thing for both ends. So I don't know what it is, but he's got to start here. This is his opportunity, like every other player. There's a new coach. We're going to play a new way, and the only way that he can turn it around is by doing it on the pitch. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see what he gives us when we start playing, and we can make a better conclusion end to the story. Because if he starts doing things that he hasn't been doing, obviously, you know, there's an argument to say, okay, he's down the tools, whatever, and that's certainly a problem. But also, maybe Amorim breaks through to Marcus Rashford. Maybe he actually gets through to him, and maybe he brings out the best in Marcus Rashford. And maybe they'll have a strong bond, because Amorim is one of these people that I mean, anybody that has dealt with him, anybody that knows him, they all say the same thing of the bonds that he creates with these players, the chemistry that he has with the players in his team. It's just marvelous. So let's see what happens. I'm interested to see what happens in that aspect. Grace says, it's like when you go to the shop and the meal deal you want isn't there. It ruins my day and I have to stay motivated. Grace saying, maybe we should give Rashford a pay rise. No, we should definitely not give Rashford a pay rise. Lyle saying Rashford needs a shrink for real, but the British media does not give him a break. The article from Sam Lowell is not helping him mentally. I personally don't think Rashford has the strength for a comeback. I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, I don't know. Only he knows. That's the thing, Lyle. Like, only he knows. We don't know. We can sit here and guess and say he needs a shrink, he needs a therapist, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. But he knows what his problems are. He knows how he feels. And he has to do something about it. And this is what I'm saying. Like, Marcus Rashford is really the only one that can only help. Like, he's the only one that can actually help himself. I think Amorim can help him a little bit, but Marcus Rashford he's the only one that can help himself majority of the percentage. And I think the majority of that comes from when you go on the pitch, run like it's your last game you're ever gonna play, ever, in your life, and your life will end tomorrow. Run, work hard, do whatever you can. If you like, if you do that part of the game, Marcus, and you don't score a goal and you don't score an assist, we the fans will at least have some sort of like a respect that like you worked your ass off and you were out there battling. And okay, you didn't get in a goal or you didn't get an assist. Um, but we'll see if you get one next game. But right now it's like you're not getting either of those, and you're also not tracking back. You walk a lot of the times. And one of the things that is, he doesn't jump for the balls, the 50-50s. Now, that used to piss me off, but I certainly think that there's something wrong um, medically. When he did his back and he had that surgery, I think there is something that the doctors told him that if he suffers a certain type of fall or injury, he can get a serious injury or it can hinder his career. And therefore, they probably recommended for him to not be jumping because you can get pushed in the back and land on your back. I think that's what that is. Because I don't see how you have a player like that and he doesn't jump for balls and the coaching staff doesn't call it out, they don't cut it out. So I think there is an issue with that aspect at the very least. I hope Rashford starts playing and do it for the next 6 months and turns into a I don't know what you meant by that end part. Because you wrote turn into shit like you did. I think you meant I hope you hope he doesn't turn to shit like he did under Eric Ten Hag. Richard saying maybe Amorim gets in and I will have a comeback. Well, maybe. Maybe, Richard. Go in there. Let Amorim sprinkle some of that magic on you and let's see what happens, Richard. Lyle saying the thing is, let's say he makes a comeback, but he doesn't do it consistently. We can count the number of times he had a massive season on one hand. He needs to be consistent. Yeah. Well, no, he does need to be consistent. And that's why I think we just got to take it as it goes. We got to take it as it goes. So if he comes back and he starts performing well, let's see how good he could keep it up for. If he does it for this season, I think he'll stay. If he goes into next season, and it doesn't carry on to a certain like a certain period of time consistency, then I think that's it. I think this could go very bad for him as well, though, because if Marcus Rashford keeps doing the things he was doing before Amorim arrived, he could certainly find himself not playing. He could certainly find himself for lack of minutes. He could become even more unhappy than he probably is right now, and he can basically be gone in the summer. I think. I think it could go two ways. Certainly, I don't think it's set in stone. I think it can go two ways. It can get better for him, and maybe he can turn it around, or if he does what he does and not tracks back and stuff, I fully expect the Ruben Amorim to not take that shit. And he will bench him. He will drop him. So and that could turn into a bad situation for him. So yeah. Let's see. But Darren Fletcher, Jason Wilcox, Nick Cox they were present at the under-21 games. This obviously says tonight, but this was from earlier in the week. So they went to go watch some things, which is good. Ruben Amorim will decide if Xerxes is not considered suitable for the project. If United decides to go for a striker, the departure of him in January would be a hypothesis. This is coming from Alfredo Padula. And there was more updates about Xerxes as well. I think it's a little bit interesting that that's coming out, but the Muppeteers putting out that the reason of the departure for Vanessa Roy and other staff is that they want fresh eyes on everything and want to look at things on an entirely clean slate. No preformed relationships with concerns over favoritism. And I think this is exactly why Ruud van Nistelrooy needed to go. It has nothing to do with Ruud. It has nothing to do with Ruud's character. It doesn't have anything to do with Ruud personally. It is from the aspects of the players. I've seen it in my own life, not at a professional level, but I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it in normal instances, in like a normal workplace environment. And I think we've seen it at Manchester United anyway. Like, they clearly would have preferred, there would have been players there that they're not going to like Ruben Amorim. They're not going to like his style. They're not going to like things that he says. And they obviously like Ruud van Nistelrooy. And as time goes on, they'll hate Amorim more and more and more. And they'll like Ruud more and more and more. And some of them will put it in their head, I want Ruud to be the manager of this club. I like him. I think he should be the manager. I'm going to stop trying for this coach, Amorim. I'm going to stop trying for him. I'm going to stop playing. I want him to get sacked. And I think there was a window to view it as he was already interim. If they sack Amorim at some point, they will put Ruud back in charge. And you can't have that there. So the only way to not have that there is you have to get rid of Ruud. You have to remove Ruud. Ruud is gone. There is no chance that he's coming back now. He has no influence over any of these players any longer. Maybe through text messages, but he's not there. There's one man there, and his people. His people obviously work for Amorim. They don't give a shit about they care about the players, but they're not going to care more about the players than they care about Amorim. Obviously, they're loyal to Amorim. So it had to be done. It had to be done. Richard saying, yeah, I think a fresh start is the best. It is. It has to be. There's no other way to really do it. It has to be. Italy-France game at the moment is pretty good. Italy won, France 2. Ah, I didn't even know they were playing, to be honest. But thanks for the update. Probably will be a good game. Two big nations playing each other. Oh, this was the follow-up to that. So they Muppeteers also went on to say in accordance to that they don't want the dressing room players feeling like, well, this is happening because Ruud likes me. They want Amorim and his team making all the assessments and decisions over the team and everything, which is a valid point as well. That there's nobody else who has any influence of it, any kind, no holdovers. And I agree 100%. And that's the only way that Manchester United could really move forward, which is why I'm highly encouraged by this project, because I think we're doing the necessary proper steps for it to do well and succeed. So let's see what happens. Obviously, we got to take it as it goes, and it's going to take some time as well. But yeah. And then here's Ty Marshall. That was his name. I called him Tyrell. Ty Marshall. Just a little bit of an excerpt from the interview, the article that he did with Malacia, saying Malacia remained in relatively positive spirits throughout and removed himself from social media to avoid theories about why he wasn't back in action. Friends would send him stories suggesting his career might be over, getting annoyed on his behalf, and sometimes frustrating him at the same time. Internally, his focus never deviated from getting back in action. And this is what I was saying. Like, even if you remove yourself from social media, there's friends, there's family, an agent or somebody, like, they might send some shit to you, and you're trying to, like, not see this stuff, and then they send it to you asking questions or saying, I'm sure, some friends, they might be idiots. They might not be true friends or whatever. Some other ones, they might actually be real friends, but they don't stop and think like, hey, maybe I shouldn't send this to him because it might mess with his head. They get so worked up because they send it to him and they're like, bro, how can they say this about you? You need to come out and say something. They're kind of looking out for him, but they're doing him a disservice because they're not thinking about it from the other side of, like, this might impact his mental. He's going through this stuff right now. He doesn't need to really be focusing on this. He's focusing on the recovery and stuff like that. So, again, sometimes it's not as dark as people make it. It's not as cynical as people make it out to be. Sometimes it is people just looking out for their friends, but they're not thinking about it from a different aspect. Stephanie's here as well. Stephanie, good to see you. How you doing? And she's saying, big up Eric and RDEs. Big up to yourself, Steph, and letting us know that we got 10 likes. Well, yes, thank you to everybody that smashed the like button because it helps the channel grow. So we greatly appreciate that. Moving on, though, because we have a lot of stuff to get through and we have a little bit more time. So I want to get through this stuff. Tyrell Malacia made his exit at the break as planned, and this is what I was saying. Many of the players went on a little bit of a mini vacation. Anybody that's not involved in internationals, they all got like a break from Manchester United. They're allowed to go do whatever they want. Malacia was one of them. He did the under 21s match, and then he left, and he is on his break somewhere. And then obviously he will come back and train with the rest of the first team starting tomorrow. He hasn't met Amorim yet, but the new head coach was aware of his return to action. So, yeah, it's all lining up for him to come back in. And this is coming from the Muppeteers as well, saying Ruben Amorim uses his subs a lot more liberally, especially in certain positions. So in his wingback position, there's a lot more distance to cover than in other positions. Just naturally, he makes subs there every game practically, and sometimes early. He wants intensity there and will sub them so they are not getting overworked and not getting injuries. Which might be something that encourages a lot of people out there, because I think one of the things with Erik ten Hag is the guy took too long to make substitutions. Sometimes he didn't make substitutions at all. And so you need to make changes. But this thing with the winger thing makes sense because they are obviously doing the most work. They're running up and down the pitch a lot. They're probably working the most out of everybody in the whole team. And therefore, they're using a lot more energy, and they're the ones that are going to get burnt out more quickly, which is smart on his part to sub them out early. Also, you know, you get in players, you need freshness there, you need intensity. So you bring somebody off the bench, they're fresh, they're ready to go. They can kind of re-up the levels, the energy levels in that area. So I think it's very, very good. Stephanie saying less than 7 days left before United play again. Yeah, I can't wait. Never a fan of the international breaks, but yeah, I just wanna start this Amorim era officially. So, Ruben Amorim and his staff consider Lenny Yoro one of the most interesting players to develop for Manchester United's long-term project. He's considered a generational talent by the club, and Amorim with the staff fully agree on that, and that's coming from Fabrizio Romano, and I think probably goes hand in hand with what many of our fans think, what many of our fans have been saying, and why so many of our fans are really excited by Lenny Yoro, and they've been desperately waiting for him to come back. And he obviously will be back in the first match back. He may possibly make his debut, albeit I don't think he will start, but he could come on as a substitute and kind of make his debut for Manchester United on the same day that Amorim is making his debut. So, again, we bought him for a reason. He's a young kid. We can develop him into probably a top center back in the world. He has speed. He's tall. So he has a lot of good qualities and traits. And I think he has a high ceiling for his potential. So let's see. I'm excited to see him. I want to see him in the United kit. I want to see him in a competitive match. And I'm waiting for that before I really start analyzing him and kind of saying what he's good at, what he's not good at, how high of a player, of a ceiling do I think he has, and this and that. But he will be back soon. And that update is followed by Lenny Yoro's full recovery is at the final stages. So the positive news is Malacia's coming back. I don't think we got something on Shaw yet, so I don't know what the hell is going on with him. But we got Yoro coming back. We got Malacia coming back. Very good positives. We have some negatives because we might have lost 1 or 2 players in the international break, and then we're going to get to that. Something that I wanted to talk about real quick was, remember when we said that Darren Fletcher got suspended because of something he said, and then we said that we might not, you know, find out what he said. Well, apparently it was against Gavin Ward, who was the 4th referee in the Brentford match. And he has come out and said, apparently, that Darren Fletcher, and this is the story, saying that after halftime whistle, and I was walking up the tunnel, Darren Fletcher from Manchester United came up to me in an extremely aggressive manner, pointing at me and shouting, "You're all rubbish. This is a fucking joke. It's the same shit every week," which I don't think is necessarily anything bad. Pretty straightforward. And also, where did he lie? Where did he lie? Where's the lie? You know what I mean? He then goes on to say, I asked him to calm down and made him understand that this behavior was totally unacceptable. I mean, is it though? Because I'm pretty sure that happens like all the time, like all match, like in every game. This is a men's league with like adults. We're not children. This isn't Sunday league. But all right. He then continued and said he then had to be restrained by another member of staff as he tried to approach me. I walked away and continued toward the match referee's locker room. Once in the changing rooms and the other match officials arrived, I informed them of Mr. Fletcher's behavior. All right. Darren wasn't wrong though. He wasn't wrong. But let's appeal it anyway. I don't think he should get a 3-match ban for that. If that's the height of what he said, and if the most outlandish thing that he could have done and said was that you're all rubbish, this is a fucking joke, and it's the same shit every week. If that's the worst thing that he said, then I don't see how that's a 3-match ban. There's things that are said way worse on a weekly basis. I don't think that justifies a 3-match ban. Richard saying plus a referee filmed taking coke. Yeah, I've seen that. I mean, he's a prat anyway. David Coot. David Coot. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Get help. Nah, he's an idiot anyway. He's a shit referee anyway. But so we have these updates. Ineos are very keen on Branthwaite, believing that he can be a key figure at the club as the first choice left-sided central defender. And I think, again, Branthwaite is going to be one to watch because we are going to need to get center-backs, especially if we're going to play the 3 backs. So, yeah, definitely one to watch on that. And another one to watch, who we've been linked for a while right now, is Manchester United are monitoring Milos Kerkez, even though Shaw is back fit. And that's coming from Jack. I don't know the source, but one of the aggregators put it out. But absolutely, Manchester United should be monitoring Milos Kerkez, even though Shaw is back fit, because Shaw will get injured again, and we have to sell Luke Shaw in the summer. So we should obviously be monitoring all available left backs and looking to get in somebody, and we don't know how Malacia is going to actually be as well. Even though he is back, there was still a question of how good is he and how good can he be for Manchester United, and he's been out for 520 something days, Malacia. So, we got to see what it is going to be with him as well. So we're certainly going to be needing a left back. So as of right now, we need a left back, a center back. We might need 2 center backs. We definitely probably 100% need a striker, and then we probably need a winger, and we need some type of a central midfielder as well. So that's probably your summer transfer window right there already. Bruno Fernandes spoke on Amorim, saying, "For me, what stands out is the connection he has with the players." Like I said previously, you have to see the way they say goodbye to him when he leaves in the middle of the season. It shows that he has a good personality and that he is someone who gives his all for the players. And I think that's true. I think he's passionate. I think he speaks from the heart. And I think the players and people that work with him respect that, because I think he gives you an honest version of himself. And people, they might not always like the honesty, but they respect the honesty. They respect people being upfront with them because, especially at that high level, but throughout the world, and maybe even in their own personal lives, there's always too many snakes. There's always too many fake people. And I think when somebody is true and genuine and they speak from the heart, and they give you them up front, I think people always respect that. They might not 100% agree with everything. They might not, like certain things, but they will respect it. And they will have a respect for that man, or woman, or whatever. But, in this case, man. So, David Coop was on cloud 9. His career is over. Well, it should have been over for being a shit referee, but, if it takes doing cocaine, and all the shit that he said and filmed off camera. Also, yeah, you got some really shitty friends, or you must be a special type of asshole for your friends to leak all those videos of you and stuff like that. So, just says about his character. The contrast between him and Ruben Amorim is like day and night. But Ruben Amorim is expected to take more of an interest in the Manchester United academy than than Eric Ten Hag, and this one kind of blew up on social media as well, caused a little bit of controversy. Because people were saying, like, Eric Ten Hag did things for the academy, and look at some of the players he's brung through, and he did care about the academy. And while I do sort of agree with that, right? One of my things is that there was many opportunities and chances for him to play some more kids, especially in lower competitions in games like that. You're playing second division English teams, and we might be winning, and you don't even sub them on to give them 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So while I did think he did help the academy, and he did have interest, and obviously he was going there and watching the games and stuff like that, I think Ruben Amorim, the biggest difference, and we've seen it at Sporting, is the things that he does. Like, he does play 17-year-olds. He will start a 17-year-old if the 17-year-old shows that he's ready to start. That he is performing. Like, he will give the opportunity to a 17-year-old over somebody that's 26. He will start that player. He will call through more players from the youth setup that he believes has this potential, or that has these abilities, and he will work with them to develop them and maybe sort of fast track them to grow a little bit faster and get them as part of the squad. He's done it with many players at Sporting, and he's done a fantastic job. And I think we will see a difference. I think somebody like a Harry Amos under Amorim, I think, will get actually some minutes and get probably more of an opportunity. Like, obviously he wasn't given that under Eric Ten Hag. I think Amorim will actually, especially if Luke Shaw gets injured and we're down a left back or something, I think like he will try and use Amos, or at least give him a chance to prove himself on the pitch. And if it fails and he plays like shit, then maybe he takes him out of the firing line. But I think he will use these players. Question, Grace says, is Rashford unhappy because Diddy got to him? Well, I don't know. I would tell you that if Diddy got to me, I would be unhappy. So if Diddy got to Rashford, then I can understand. I can understand why he's unhappy. Certainly, I think anybody would be very, very unhappy if Diddy got to them. So I don't know anything about that though. But I would say that if he did, that would make a lot of sense as to why he would be unhappy. But pure rumor, pure speculation, purely unproven. We have no clue, and we are not going to be held liable for that. Lyle Wilson saying, we have to give credit to Eric Ten Hag, though. He did make it easier for the academy players to be integrated into the first team. Him using the academy was the issue. And 100%. And I think that's where people were kind of missing the sort of issue argument. Like, because many people, Lyle, online especially, they were saying what you were saying. Like, but they were taking that line of saying, like, he did have an interest in the academy because he made it easier for academy players to be integrated in the first team, and he went and watched the matches. And I don't think that's what this is saying here. I don't think that's what this is actually saying here. I think what they're actually saying is he will actually go and grab a 17-year-old and put him in a match and start him if he deems it so. Like, if their ability is there, he's not going to sit around and be like, oh, well, we have to be careful because he's 17 and we don't want to, like, rush him, and what if he doesn't do good? Like, he's gonna look and he's gonna be like, the guy has talent, the kid has talent, he has abilities, he's been good in training. Start, show me what you got, show me you're ready. I think you're ready. Go prove me that you are ready. I'm gonna give you a chance. And then he sees what he gets on the pitch. I was a little dark. Yeah, I mean, it's all right. I like I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Don't worry about it, Grace. Oh, I lost my spot. Where did this pop up from? Okay, so Ruben Amorim is set to give all his squad a chance to stake a claim in his plans, and that very much includes Xerxes, who is confident he is still destined to be successful United career. So obviously, I think we all knew that. That all these people are probably going to get a new clean slate, and this is what I'm saying. Like, it's their chance, it's their opportunity. Now, obviously, Ineos are aware, or should be aware, of players that are, you know, they have problems under the previous manager. They did a whole review. I think they already have some concerns. But you know, from an Amorim perspective, he's not going to take the word of Erik ten Hag. He's not going to take the word of, you know, what was reported or what played out in the media between the previous manager and him. He might listen to, you know, things from Jason Wilcox and Omar Baradin, etc., if they have something to say on a certain player or something like that. But obviously, Amorim wants to go there. He wants to have his own influence. He wants to see firsthand, and he wants to see what he can do about things. So he's obviously going to give all the players pretty much a chance to show him what it is. And this is what I'm saying. Like, they can only help themselves. They need to go in training, and they got to do it, and they need to do it in games. And if they want to bitch and cry and moan that they're not playing or they're not getting minutes, you really only have yourself to blame, because you're not doing enough. And if you don't feel like you have the support of the fans, it's because you're not doing enough. It's just plain and simple. So, you know, but a number of Italian clubs have registered an interest with Joshua Xerxes' representative should he be made available in this January, but they have been told that as it stands, he has no plans to leave United. I don't think Joshua Xerxes is going anywhere in January. I don't even expect him to be sold in the summer. But again, I guess we have to see how the rest of the season goes. If it goes really, really bad, maybe they do end up selling him. I don't think so, but maybe they do. But clearly they said that they've seen something in him, and they're hoping that Amorim can bring that out of him and show everybody what they kind of saw and why they signed him. So I'm going to wait to see, because I am questioning it a little bit, but I'm trying to give him my backing. So Grace is saying, don't sack me. My compensation package is too high. Well, if we have to sack you, Grace, we'll do it. I'll pull the trigger. I'll do it, because it's the right thing to do. You got to do it if we need to, but we don't need to right now. We don't need to right now. Now this kid, I know about him. I think he's very, very good. He plays, if I'm not mistaken, central midfield somewhere. And he's young, but he's one of these players that's talked about as being a very promising player. You know, in his position for the future. I like this kid. And I would be very excited if Manchester United go get him. He is from Norway. His name is Sverre Nypan. He plays for Rosenborg. And Rosenborg has told him to begin choosing his next club once the season finishes in early December. Their season ends in the middle or at the end of the year, which is good, because we could actually go and get him and bring him in January. And this is a type of deal that we could go do in January, which I will be there for. So, Roy Keane had some things to say on Garnacho, because obviously the controversy that followed. Garnacho scored a world-class goal before the international break. It was an absolute banger. He didn't celebrate. He seemed a little bit down. He didn't seem like his useful, cheerful self. Now, obviously, there's been things, if you're attuned to, you know, the social media aspect. There is a guy that is on football, that's on football fan channels, that he is a season ticket holder apparently, and he gets some sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say access, but he goes, you know, where the players walk in when they get off the bus and stuff. There's like gates where the fans can go and they can kind of, you know, try and get an autograph or watch the players walk in front of them. And he goes there with 10-year-old kids, by the way. And he's probably the only grown man there. And he recorded himself saying things to Garnacho, saying things like, you need to pass the ball better, you need to, you know, dribble better, you need to shoot better. And he's telling him, you know, please do better, and stuff like that. And you know, and Garnacho was going to play a match, and Garnacho actually, before walking away, he turned around to him and said, so why aren't you playing then? And then left, which clearly ticked him off. And so he didn't celebrate. He didn't celebrate. Um, and obviously it affected him because I think it's one thing for online social media comments because you don't see the person per se usually. And maybe you could kind of wrap your head around, well, it's the internet, all types of bullshit is said, and you don't really buy into it too much. But when you go there and it's like one of your own fans, and you just got there and people asking for your autograph, and then you have this one jackass that's literally telling him, your passing's not good enough, this and that, and it's like, hey, I already get enough of this bullshit. Like, how about you back me a little bit? Like, I'm going to play a match, wish me luck and give me some positive words, not fucking criticize me right before my match. Um, so obviously it affected him. And there was a lot of talk about it, and then Roy Keane came out and said and said whatever happens off the pitch, no amount of criticism should ever stop you from celebrating a goal. And this part of what Roy Keane said, I completely and 100% agree, because in my opinion, Garnacho not celebrating the goal was like you kind of let that person win. You let them win. You let them ruin your moment. You let them bring you down when you didn't have to. You went on there, you did what you needed to do on the pitch. You performed, you scored the goal, you silenced him, um, and stuff like that. You did what you had to do. Uh, but then kind of succumbing to that and being all that upset and not being able to enjoy your moment on the pitch of scoring that goal for the team with the fans that are there supporting you and actually back you, you kind of let him win in that aspect. So I do agree with Roy Keane there, and he also says when you score a goal, you can't think about anything else. They're playing a game to score goals. They've got fans who have traveled and paid a fortune to come. Um, and I think he's a little bit harsh in that, but I get what he means. But obviously, he's a little he didn't feel right in the moment. You know what I mean? And again, he's a human, Roy. Um, Now he goes on to say people make sacrifices to come and see Manchester United, and he is 100%. Tickets are not cheap. People travel far and wide. He scores a great goal. United are going through a tough time, and if a young player can't enjoy scoring a goal for Manchester United, you know what he should do: get a new job. Now, this is where I disagree with Roy Keane, because for me, when I read that part, I was like, Roy, you were doing good up until you said that he should go and get a new job, because I actually think that the problem stems much further, that United are going through a difficult time, a tough time, and if a young player is scoring a goal and can't enjoy scoring a goal for Manchester United, then there is a bigger issue than just the player himself. There is an issue at the club, around the entire club, between the players, the dressing room, and the fans, and the whole thing. The whole thing. There is a bigger issue going on. And so Garnacho should not be singled out and saying that he should leave Manchester United because he can't enjoy scoring a goal. There's clearly some type of a cultural issue going on. It's clearly toxic to a certain degree, because no young player should ever be going onto the pitch playing for Manchester United, not enjoying themselves, and then also scoring a goal and helping the team and feeling like they can't enjoy that moment. So I get what he means. You kind of have to be tough about it, but I think Garnacho is tough about it. I think he's been through a lot already, and again, he's still a kid. He's still a kid, like he's gonna be affected. So, um, but he then also did say there are idiots everywhere. If he's upset about that, he should get another job. And he is right about that, though. There are idiots everywhere, and I would say that, um, again, he's young. He's young. I think maybe for right now it might affect him. Everybody's sort of different, but I don't think it necessarily. I mean, this was the first time we really seen something like this happen with him, and I think there's been multiple times where things have been said about him and stuff like that, and he showed to be defiant and stuff. Maybe it wasn't exactly that common. Maybe something else was going on, and that kind of pushed him a little bit over the edge. Again, human being. So, um, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's like that for Garnacho. I think he's done very good. when he's been criticized in the past. He's gone on the pitch. He's scored goals. He's enjoyed his moment. The situation was a little weird. I don't know why he was so upset about it, because I seen him not be upset about other things. And he did so well. So, but I was a little bit disappointed in that. Like, I was kind of looking at it like, I get you, Roy. And you make good points, but I really wanted you to back Garnacho a little bit more. The kid's young. He looks up to somebody like you, Roy Keane. You considered our best captain, one of our best captains, if not our best captain in Manchester United history. And somebody like him at his age, like, he looks up to you, Roy, and he's gonna read that quote. And you probably made him feel fucking worse. You know what I mean? Like, you could have backed him a little bit and said, like, that fan shouldn't be doing things like that, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, Garnacho has to be a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher, stuff like that. I think the way he went about it wasn't the greatest. Honestly, I think he could have been a little bit more backing um, of Garnacho. Lyle's saying, I hated what Keane said. He was totally off the mark with this one. Garner was attacked, and Garner is supposed to be fine with it. Keane doesn't understand that. Well, I think I think the thing is, Keane is, because Keane is Keane, and obviously he's a hothead, and Keane is somebody that he has a very, very tough skin. So he doesn't, things like that don't bother him, and he doesn't really understand it, and he doesn't really view it from anybody else's point of view other than his own point of view. So I think when he speaks on things like this, he views it as how he views it as a player. And clearly some shit like that, it wouldn't I mean, it might bother him, but it would bother him in a different way, in terms of, like, the rage would probably come out. And he would go and make something happen, or put in a tackle, and he would kind of let it out in a different way. And I don't think, you would never see Roy Keane probably do something like that, where he looks very sad, and not feeling like he can't celebrate or enjoy the moment. But it would probably come out in a different way, which would probably be through an anger type of way. And Gray says, if Garnacho can't handle a bit of pressure from our fan base, how is he going to handle Madrid fans? Well, it's a fair point, but I think he has handled pressure from our fans, because I think he's been criticized in the past. I just don't know what it was about that specific interaction that made him like that. Now, again, maybe it wasn't solely that. Maybe other things were going on. Maybe you ever have a shit day, and you're just going through a shit day, or something bad happened, and you're just kind of trying to get through the day, but things kind of pile on top of each other, and then something happens that's actually more insignificant than the original bad thing that happened, but that's like it's like the final straw that broke the camel's back, like, and it just absolutely crushes you. And maybe something like that happened to him on that day. I'm sure when we come back, I'm sure he's gonna be fine, and I'm sure he'll go back to being okay. I don't know what it was about that, but I think a lot of people have also said, well, look at the shit that, because people clipped up the video, and they put it around, and it started circulating the internet, and they were like, this is why Garnacho didn't celebrate this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, maybe it was a part of it. And maybe there was other things that were going on. Maybe something happened in his private life the night before. Maybe he was already feeling a little bit shitty. So you never know. But I don't think he's always been like this. I think, there was times where he was criticized for his performances. They were saying that people were saying that he should be dropped. He shouldn't be starting, and this and that. And he's always gone on the pitch to be defined, and then he does celebrate, and he does enjoy the moment. So I don't know what it was about this specific interaction. But I think he'll be all right. Ruben Amorim is due to take Manchester United training for the first time on Monday, by which his visa is expected to arrive, which it has. It has arrived. So, and this one which was funny. It came from Record Portugal, saying that Benfica have a plan to keep Alvaro Carreras, which is our player that we sold to Benfica, and escape the Manchester United buyback clause. The plan is to try not to sell him back to United for any of the next 4 windows, and therefore see that the clause expires so they can sell for more elsewhere. And we just have to say that this actually can happen, because we can we can activate the buyback clause whenever we choose to. It doesn't have to be when Benfica decide to sell him. So this report is complete bullshit and false because the deal doesn't work in that way. We don't have to wait for Benfica to be like, oh, he's for sale, and then Manchester United come in and go, well, we want to buy him. No, Manchester United have a buyback clause, and they can activate that buyback clause at any time during the period that is specified in the clause. Therefore, we can literally get to January, and Manchester United could be like, we are activating the buyback clause, and here's the money, and we're taking him back. And Benfica can literally do nothing about it. Yeah, they can't do anything about it. So this whole story right here is complete bullshit. And I don't know, they were trying to drum up some type of craziness. We are obviously interested in him. Ruben Amorim is very interested in him, and I personally, and I think many of you, what if the player don't want to come back? Well, that's a different story. That's a different story because obviously we can't force him. Well, actually, I don't know. In my opinion, Grace, I think I would say that you can't force the player to sign, but if it's in the deal, if they put something in the deal where like we just activate the clause and he becomes our player, and maybe the contract carries over or something like that, that specific we don't know. But I would assume that number one, obviously you can't force somebody to sign a deal. So if he doesn't want to come, then probably he won't come. But I think he will come because I think obviously the promise would be like, you've obviously developed, we made this mistake, and we want to give you an opportunity to come play. And I think he always feels like there's some sort of unfinished business at Manchester United for him. But it is a good question. But I also think that there might be a thing where in the deal there is some sort of a clause that like maybe they don't have to hash out like a new contract for him. Maybe the contract carries over. Maybe they just have to pay the fee and he comes back. So obviously that hasn't been reported, and I don't know if that's a thing, and maybe it's not really likely, but it could be something. Am I the only one who thinks he will end up at a mid-table Spanish club in a few years? Who? Garnacho? You think Garnacho's going to end up at a mid-table Spanish club? I don't think so. Not with the way he's going. I don't think so. If you're talking about Garnacho, talking about Alvaro, maybe. But I think he's doing very good right now. But Ruben Amorim is set to hand Marcus Rashford a chance to impress as the number 9 in his 3-4-3 system at Manchester United. And this is coming from Dean Jones Soccer. Well, that's interesting. I don't know exactly if this is how accurate and true this is. I mean, we will find out soon in the next few days. But I don't see why Marcus Rashford wouldn't be playing on the wing anyway. Maybe because he's not more of a traditional winger. But my friend has told me that the three they aren't cams, they're not shadow strikers, they are wingers. They are wingers. So Marcus Rashford can certainly play on the wing. It'll be interesting to see if he plays him at number 9, at striker. We've kind of seen that before. I don't know if it'll necessarily work. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be good, but maybe the system. I mean, we've seen him there before in a different system, and obviously it wasn't. That's not his real strength. I think a lot of people would say, but maybe in this system, maybe it's better. But I don't know how accurate this is. Obviously, I think we need to wait and see for really what goes on. Grace disagreeing with that, saying Rashford at number 9. Nah, Amorim gotta go. Well, let's just wait, Grace. Let's wait. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see what he does. But again, Anthony coming into the spotlight a little bit, saying Anthony has no intention of leaving Manchester United in the coming months, and any potential swap deal for Flamingo's Lorraine is not going to happen. Yeah, there was talk about Anthony being sent to a Brazilian team, and we were gonna take well, being sent to Flamengo, and we would take one of their young players, and they could take Anthony, and apparently that's not going to happen. But I think Anthony is pretty much all but done at Manchester United, and I think he's on borrowed time. Ruben Amorim saying you have to win here. We all know that. And we absolutely do. Ruud Van also gave us a message saying to everyone at Manchester United Football Club, in particular the backroom staff, the players, and the fans, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your incredible efforts and support. It has been a privilege and honor to represent the club as a player, coach, and manager, and I will always cherish the memories we have shared together. Manchester United will always have a special place in my heart, and I hope there are many more glory days at Old Trafford very soon. Not only because I want the club to do well, but because you all deserve it. All the best and take care. Signed, Ruud. And very touching, good message. He was obviously very devastated that he couldn't stay on. I feel sad that he had to go. But again, correct decision. And thank you, Ruud, for what you did. And we'll see you sometime in the future. I know for a fact. I feel it, in my heart. Like he will come back one day. I wish you all the best. I think it's good for you, Ruud. I think go and get the experience. Apparently, he's applied for a job in the championship. I forgot what team it was. I hope he gets it. I hope he gets it, and I hope he does well. Um, you know. Richard saying, who remembers Adon Januzaj? He thought he was the best thing at the club, left, and it was all downwards. Well, yeah, that happens a lot. That happens a lot. I certainly remember him. Coventry, thank you, Grace. He applied a job for Coventry, and I think we're still waiting to hear word. I don't know if they made a decision on it. I don't think they did. So, because there's other people in contention, but if they were smart, they should give it to Ruud. Ruben Amorim on Old Trafford saying on TV, it's big and impressive. When you're here, you can feel it. You feel the history. I'm very, very proud to be the manager of Manchester United. It's incredible. It's an honor to be here. And also, Ruben Amorim was always very honest with his players and to the press, passionate, cool minds all the time, reading the game very well, very demanding with the players when they won and comprehensive when they didn't. People trust him, and he is very easy to like. And I think this is all tick, 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 because we need somebody exactly like this. We haven't had somebody exactly like this. We kind of had like a Solskjaer, who everybody liked, but he wasn't tactically very good enough in that aspect. And I think again, this everybody that's worked with Ruben Amorim, the players, other staff, former teammates, this and that, they all say the same thing, that he's a passionate man. He speaks from the heart. He's calm when he needs to be. He's smart tactically. He reads the game very well. He demands a lot. Um, he has a good balance between kind of giving them an arm around the shoulder and sort of the hair dryer. But people trust him and they respect him, and he's very easy to like. And I think it's because he's just an upfront guy. I think he's upfront with you. He gives you, he just gives you him. And I think again, like, some people might not like some things that may be said, but they at the end of the day, they will respect him more than maybe they respect other people, because people respect that. They respect when you are upfront and honest with them. Um, so Ruud is the front runner for the Coventry job. That he is. That I read. And hopefully they give it to him, because I think it would be very, very good for him. Now, we had some more stuff that I couldn't get on the screen because it was just like way too much stuff to clip and cut and put in here. So I'm just going to read them to you as we go along, so that we could kind of get through all this news, because it's been actually crazy. And I had to read it because I've been working so much that I haven't even been keeping up with the news. So there was some things I seen here and there, but I had to go through this. And Amorim made some comments. He did his interview. I think it was an absolutely excellent first interview. He said some things that were very, very good. It's got me fired up, and he actually said some things that me and some of you have been saying. So before he's even spoken. So um, one of the things for Ruben Amorim, and let me just make this bigger so I could really see it because I can't see it. So one of the things for Amorim is that the United job was no different from Sporting's when Amorim took over. They were also in a mess. Amorim felt the club needed a change, and he could be that guy that basically gathering the pieces of a broken club. He looks at Manchester United the same way. He feels that it's an opportunity for him, and I think it absolutely is an opportunity. You know, I a lot of people say, why would you want to go to Manchester United? Manchester United's a mess. Look at how many managers failed. And again, I think these people that come to Manchester United, like Ruben Amorim or others, they come to Manchester United because, again, they have an ego. Ego is not a bad thing. Everybody has an ego, but they have a certain ego. They have a certain self belief in themselves. You can't get to the level that he's gotten to without having that. So it's not a bad thing. Ronaldo has it, and he's the best player, or like maybe not right now, but best player, maybe in all of football in history, depending on who you ask, of course, but one of the best, certainly. And he has all those things as too, and it propels you. Now, they look at this, and this is what I'm saying. Like, he looks at Manchester United. He's not stupid. He knows that there are problems at the club. He knows that the club has been failing. He knows that the club is in a mess, but he doesn't see it as a thing of like, because of all those things, I need to stay away from there. He sees it as an opportunity to come and do something great for himself and for the club. And I think it certainly is an opportunity because, again, listen, everybody knows that Manchester United has been sort of in this mess. Everybody knows that Manchester United haven't been great. Therefore, if you come to Manchester United and you do an okay job, but you end up failing or you end up getting sacked, I mean, it's not going to really impact you that bad in terms of your own career, because everybody will kind of look at it and be like, yeah, but that's United. Like, United are fucked. Like, that guy was always going to fail. Look at how many people failed. But if he comes to Manchester United and we do the best we've ever done in the past 11 plus years, then it's a win for him, because everybody's going to be like, the guy's a genius and he's God or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's going to be good for him. So I think obviously, absolutely is an opportunity, because it's an opportunity to come and do something great that hasn't been done. And obviously the goal is to end up winning the Premier League at some point. So if he could do that, it's a win-win, really, for him. I don't see it as a negative. One of the things that's come out from Madrid Extra is that Real Madrid and Alphonso Davies, who was linked to Manchester United, have an agreement and he will sign in January, which we've talked about on this channel, and we said that is the most likely outcome. But now we got to the most important part, which is the Ruben Amorim interview that he just put out. I don't know if you guys seen it. If you haven't, you should. I mean, we'll go over it, but I think it's important to hear it from his mouth in the way he says things, because context and like the social language is important, right? So I think it's important to go and hear it, and just watch him give it if you haven't done it already. But we can talk about it here, and I think he said, I think he said some very big things. I think he said some very important things, and he's definitely got me excited by a lot of the things that he said. So he started off by saying, or he was asked, why Manchester United? And he said, I felt the connection with the club. And when I say the club, I felt the connection with the people at the club. That's very important to me because I want to work with people I like and feel in tune with. The second point is the history of this club. This is the place I want to be because you can be part of something special. He then also said, a connection with the people at the club, ? And he said, yes. People like Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford, but especially Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, and Jason Wilcox. I felt a connection. We want to do something special in this special club. So I think that's an interesting quote there. He also said on using Old Trafford, saying, of course, if you are a coach and you don't use the most important thing, of course the players are on the pitch. but the environment is very important because they play better in the environment if the environment is good. So of course we need the fans to win matches. So just saying that, you know, we need the fans to be able to back the club. Um, and Amorim also saying we are the engine of football. Manchester United is the engine of the Premier League. And we are, in a certain sense. You know, for as bad as we are, or have been, we are still the biggest club in England. And we are still considered one of the biggest clubs in the world. Even though we have been poor, we're considered more of a sleeping giant, but we are still a form of a giant. And Manchester United, and this is why it's important for Manchester United to return to being on top, because when we were on top, we were the face of this league. We were the face of the country. And we need to return back to that period. We've you know, our club has laid the foundation and the groundwork for many other clubs and for the league itself. You know, and just all, you know, pushing the Premier League and football, and the English league all around the world. So, Italy 1, France 3. Fabio on fire, unbelievable. So Amorim, here you go, Grace. Because you were talking about the 3-4-3 and that he has to play the 3-4-3. Well, Amorim has actually said something about the 3-4-3 and how a lot of people are talking about it. So here is direct quote saying, a lot of people talk about the 3-4-3, Grace, and 4-3-3 and all those things. But when I think about the team, it's not a system or a formation. It's the character of the players, the way they see the club. We have to focus on that before worrying about how we play and how we press. The most important thing for me is to create the principles, the identity, and the character that we had in the past. And I think from that quote, I don't think he's saying, like, I'm not going to play a 3-4-3, or a 4-3-3, or whatever it is. I don't think he's saying, like, I'm going to play some other formation. I think he's actually absolutely 100% correct. And the more I keep reading quotes from this guy about Manchester United and his ideas of what he thinks about the club, I'm getting more and more excited, because it's like he's watched this channel for the past 2 years, and he's taken half the shit I said and wrote it down. Because I feel like I've been saying this for quite some time. Like, we have to create principles. There's no identity. The character of the team, of the club, of the foundation. Like, we need these things. Those are the basics. We need to build the foundation properly before we can go on to all this other crap that so many people talk about, that they get lost in. This 3-4-3 and the 4-3-3, and it has to be a 5-3-2 and all this stuff. And it's like, but if we don't have, like, a good feeling in the club, if we don't have, like, a belief, if we don't have, like, that basic foundation, then what is the point of anything else? Because it's all just going to collapse and crumble underneath us. As soon as we hit the first signs of problems, you know, the foundation will crack and there will be a giant leak and it'll be a giant disaster. So he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. You know, the character of the players is number one thing. The way they see the club, but how they believe in the club. I think many players at the club, they might publicly say it's a big club, but they might see it as sort of a mess. They might see it as, you know, this mediocre club nowadays, and they don't see it as such a great club. And you got to change the way you look at things. You can't have that mindset, because you bring that with you on the pitch, and then the performances follow. So yeah, I think he's absolutely right with that sort of stuff. But he goes on to say, the team is the most important thing for me. If you work as a team, ding, 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 the individual talent will shine. You have to have an identity. Ding, 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 ding. Everyone thinks the same way. Run, play, have fun. That's what motivates me. Everyone wants to win, and I want to win. But with an identity, that's the thing I focus on all the time. And I'm telling you, the more that this guy speaks, the more I can see exactly why we've hired him, because I think he is exactly what Manchester United need. I think he is exactly what Manchester United haven't had in 11 plus years. Now, if he can take these words and turn them into actions, and those actions lead to performances and results on the pitch, then I think we've got an absolute winner here. I think we've actually gotten the one. So let's see what happens. But Amorim also saying, I've played in every position: right back, left back, central defender, midfielder, winger, number 10, number 8. I haven't played goalkeeper or striker, so I was the team player who also knew the bench. So I know everything my players feel. When I think about a team, I think about each player, the fans, the feelings, everything is in my mind. He said, we know we need time. And this is one of the most important things that he said. And I think it's a huge and a big statement. And I think the difference between him and Erik ten Hag is absolutely monumentally massive. And I think this is why this guy will probably have a better chance of succeeding than Erik ten Hag actually had. And he said, we know we need time, but we have to earn it. Winning matches means earning time. And I said that on this channel time and time and time again for Erik ten Hag. And I said he had to go because he didn't help himself. This is a performance-based, results-based game. And if you don't win matches and if you don't get the results, you will cut yourself short. You must win matches. You must win matches. So if Amorim is aware, like if Amorim wants as much time as possible, you need to win the matches. You need to get the results. You need to get the points. It's the only way that's going to help you. You can sit there and beg for more time and beg for people to trust you. But if we ain't seeing it in the table and performances, you ain't going to get it. So he said the most important thing for me is identity. From day one, we will start with our identity. Of course, we will prepare for the matches, but we focus on our game model, how we play, how to press, those little things, those little details. You can't focus 100% on every detail because the players wouldn't understand it. My first goal is identity. And I think that's literally the best spot to start, because Manchester United haven't had an identity, and if we do have an identity, it's a shit identity and it's a weak identity. So I think the best place for Ruben Amorim to start his era at Manchester United is to make a strong identity for Manchester United and turn that thing into an absolute monster. It has to be one of the number one things. And if he can do that, because that is something we have not had for all these years, I think we're going to start to see a resurgence of Manchester United. Because it is certainly one that why we fail. Because we are just, we don't stand for anything. We stand for being losers. We stand for being weak. That's what we've been. That's not United identity. We need a strong identity. So Amorim saying, I don't want to say that we need time. This was the other very big important quote. Says, I don't want to say that we need time because we have a young team. They are prepared. They are ready to face the demands of Manchester United. They have to be, since they are here. We know that it will take time, and we will try again. We will try to gain time with the matches, but we have to start from the first day without fear, without thinking that they are not used to playing like this. I don't think about that. They will start from the first day with our idea. Whatever happens, that is the objective. And I think that is an absolutely huge statement from Ruben Amorim, one that I back 10,000%, because I think that that is, number one, the correct mentality, but also the correct route to go down. Obviously, things are going to take time, but you don't use the excuse of, oh, it's going to take time. We need to start now. These players are here at Manchester United now. They have to be prepared. They are prepared. And then they are ready to face the demands of Manchester United. And the ones that aren't, they will fail and they will no longer be here. But there are players there that are there, and you have to put them in that environment, and they must go into it and they must grow. And you use the matches that you have to gain time. by winning the matches, like I just said, like we just said. But you start from day one. You don't, you know, I think it would be a big red warning, red flag, if he came in and he was like, listen, it's going to be hard to do this in the middle of the season. We don't have a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time. I'm just going to set us up in a 4-2-3-1, and then we'll figure out later on. And he's not doing that. He's saying and he's doing exactly what I said in the beginning of the show. When Jurgen Klopp came into Liverpool, he did the same exact shit, right? And they struggled. They struggled that season. So it was very ugly sometimes. But he didn't change it. He didn't shit himself. He didn't panic and start doing crazy irrational things that had nothing to do with what he was doing that made him successful. He stuck with it, and they went on an actual process. And it took about 2 to 3 years, but it worked out in the end. Pep Guardiola did the same shit. I remember when Pep came to City and they criticized Pep and they're saying you can't play this Spanish football in the Premier League and it's never going to work and blah 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 blah. And he stuck with it, and it worked. It absolutely 110% worked, because look where they are and look where we are. And every single one of our managers that come in, they tried to play their football, and most of them changed it for Manchester United and for the players, because they were worried about losing their job. They were worried about the demands. They were worried about being sacked. They were worried about failing. They panicked and shit themselves, and it all ended in failure. And I think Ruben Amorim I think he knows he has the backing of the hierarchy. So I think he is in a perfect spot to start doing this. But he's gone on to say, you feel it at Carrington, but when you come here, it's so different. You see the trophies, you see the tragedy, the history. After the crash, we were European champions. I think it's important to instill that strength in our team. When the players come here, they should do the same thing. I think it's very important. They have to feel that this is Manchester United. And I agree. I think many players, and especially because of the things that have happened at the club over the past numerous amount of years, I think when they look at the history, they're like, yeah, that's Manchester United, it's so fantastic. But when they kind of look at the club now, like, they don't have that feeling of like, this is actually Manchester United. And that's because technically it's not. But you have to do something about that mentally wise. And that's going to come from Ruben Amorim. And I think him saying that is he's showing that, you know, we need to get that. We need to get that in their head. They need to have that, you know, in their head. History must inspire the team. Sure, that's why we are Manchester United. We haven't won the Premier League for a long time, but Manchester United are the biggest club in England, so we have to fix that and try to win again. And he also said, a message to the fans. It's a big responsibility. First of all, I'm very honored to be here. It was my only choice because I feel the greatness of this club. I will do everything for the team. I will defend my players if necessary all the time against everyone. It's important to me, and I will try to do everything in my power to put this club in the place it belongs. And I firmly believe that we will succeed. So strong things. Manchester United have not discussed names of players to sign with Amorim yet. He wants to assess the team first in training and matches. His opinion will be more important in the recruitment, but does not mean that he will decide. And yes, because he doesn't have a veto. So. Yeah. So yeah, you know, that was his first kind of interview for Manchester United, and I look forward to hearing from him more. I think the presses are going to be a lot more better. You know, this guy speaks with passion. He speaks from the heart. I think he says very good and interesting things. And you could tell he speaks from the heart, because I think the things that he said about Manchester United or I think they resonate with the fan base. I think they resonate with many of us out there. I think it resonates a lot with the fan base and what he said. So yeah, certainly, for sure. um it's definitely good. So yeah, I think the next time we're going to be able to go live is probably next Sunday, to be quite honest, because I again, there's no time during the week. Now we do have, oh, but that's at the end of next week. So next Sunday, we'll go live, and and obviously, we're playing Ipswich Town next Sunday, next week, 7 days from now. So we will be doing the Red Devil recap like we always do. And maybe we can do sort of a double upload where we do a Red Devil recap after the match, and then we come back later on for kind of a later stream on the Sunday, and we do a little bit of both, but we do a little bit of a news and a little bit of a Red Devil recap. So I think that's what we're going to do, because we can't really stream throughout the week anymore, so it's very difficult. Not in this setting anyway. And because of my job right now. So but yeah, that won't last forever. So we will certainly I'm just trying to look at dates. I'm just looking at dates. So another thing that we can do is Thursday, not this Thursday, but Thursday of the 28th. It's actually Thanksgiving in America. So we'll be celebrating that, obviously, but we also have a match against Bodo Glimt, or whatever they're called, for the Europa League. And that one I will be able to certainly go live for, because I'll be around. And then also I will be, because we have off Thursday, we have off Friday, and then obviously, well, shit, we're supposed to work Saturday. I don't know if we're going to go in Saturday. I got to figure that one out, but we get off Thursday and Friday at the very least. I don't know if we're going to jump in on Saturday. We just take the rest of the week. When we get closer, I'll let you guys know, so. Don't remind me I have to go get turkey. Well, yeah, go get that turkey. Hopefully find some time to do some coding training too. Right now, not so much, because I'm very tired. But yeah, I might do some later tonight. I gotta fit it in somewhere. But it's hard when you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and or 4:30 in the morning, and you get home at 5:30, 6 p.m. and you gotta shower, you gotta eat, kind of unwind a little bit, and then you gotta be back up at 4:30 in the morning tomorrow. So you don't got too much time until you gotta go back to sleep. So it's a little hard, but again, this is only like temporary. The job, well, obviously it's not gonna go on forever. The job will end. And it's only going to be for the next couple of months. So we just take it as it comes, and then we'll have other opportunities to fill that in. So don't worry about it. But it was really great to talk to you guys all again, and I'm glad that all of you joined in and came back, and it was very good. I missed doing the shows. I missed talking to the community and stuff. So it was good to be back. And I guess we'll see each other next weekend, next Sunday. And we'll talk again very, very soon. But so just thank you to everybody that showed up. Enjoy the rest of your Sundays. Thank you for smashing the like button for me. Because I greatly appreciate it. Anybody that's a new subscriber, thank you for subscribing. We welcome you to the community as well. And yeah, just everybody just take care, be good. I gotta go take care of some things. It's a little bit late here, it's a little bit late over there. So just everybody be good. Thank you, Lyle. Appreciate that. Definitely will do. And everybody stay good. And Richard, thank you as well. And shout out to everybody, Grace, Ray, everybody that was in here. Thank you. Shout out to all of you. I'll talk to you guys soon, and hopefully everything is good. So we'll see you on the next one. We'll see you next Sunday for sure, after the match. Be good till then. Stay safe.